Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton show. Today is definitely a great story. I love great stories and I love hearing them because stories have a way of impacting every individual that hears it. I don't know the impact all the time. It depends on how well you listen and how well you are resonating to the individual. But nevertheless, every story has this unique journey, and today is no different. Let me take you down this path for a minute. Imagine being top in your game, CEO, financial advisor. You're dominating, and you're a female. Then all of a sudden, life's unexpected things happen. Let's talk about COVID. That's a game changer. But just imagine on top of that, getting responsibilities handed to you and it just becomes a little bit overwhelming, but you're still trying to do your shit. Then on top of that, your support system decides to take a turn for the worse, walking out. And don't forget, you're a female and you also have children. That's a story that everybody needs to hear. And you're going to hear that story. But not only are you going to hear that story and how it started, but you're going to also hear how it fucking ended. And I love the ending to this story because I'm proud to have on the show the lady who went through all this and has came out shining like a bed of roses. The one, the only, Miss Jessica Skinner. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you, Andre. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I take it with the nationality of the language, the hairstyle, a little bit of Brazilian.
You got it. Absolutely. I
Okay,
have dual citizenship.
dual citizenship. Before we get into the dual citizenship and all that, give the viewers a little bit about who you are before we get started with the show.
Absolutely. I am a mother of four teenagers. I'm 45 years old. I am a life master consultant, a dream builder coach, a speaker, and I work with the best aloe vera products in the world that empowers me from inside out. I live in Florida, United States, for over 18 years now, but I was born and raised in Brazil.
Wow. So let's get right down to the meat and gravy of your story. Let's start with October of 2022. That was a game changer for basically your whole life's journey. Um, th- Take us down that moment.
So we were actually coming out of COVID around that time, and a lot has happened up until that point, but that was pivotal because there was a beginning of a career change happening, and then it affected also our personal lives.
Mhm.
So I realized that me being promoted in the financial industry that I so worked hard to get was actually not what I wanted. I realized that I wasn't as present as I wanted to be because of the amount of stress due to the pandemic and due to the whole restructure of the banking system that I used to work for. At the same time, my previous husband was being promoted, which seems to be also something good at the time. But little by little, we realized that our marriage started to become apart from each other and emotionally disconnected. So that led to some additional changes that came right after that.
Let's go back a little bit. You mentioned some key words here. You mentioned a job title that you worked so diligently to grasp and get a hold of. What was that job title? What were the things that you did to get to where you was at to turn around and have it pretty much smacked in your face?
I'm a very passionate person. Everything that I do full blown. I like to feel good about my accomplishments and I like to give my best. So, with that being said, I worked for about 13 years to finally be able to be promoted to just a management position at the banking institute that I used to work for. And as soon as that happened, there was a sequence, like a domino effect of events that happened. First was within that same week of my promotion, employees started to leave the bank.
Mhm.
After that, the CEO was let go. A lot of scary moments came after that because of a lot of changes that happened. The new CEO came with many, many changes with good intentions, however, affected a lot, especially my job. And with COVID coming, half of the staff was sent home. So the load of work that I had at this point, and having four children in elementary and middle school, having to all of a sudden having to study from home, and I was not approved to work from home, having to manage all of that became very overwhelming. That affected my relationships, it affected my family life, and it affected my health. I gained weight, my health started to decline. So it affects all the quadrants in our lives, right? So something had to change.
Why did you think that people were walking away prior to even COVID happening? You mentioned that people were leaving, and then let's go back even deeper. You don't have to mention the company's name. What was this, a isolated banking company that you was working for, or is this a major known banking company? You don't have to mention the name. And if either way, what was the reason that people were actually leaving, and what was the reason that all of a sudden the reconstruction was put in place to have you basically be treated the way you were with the workload?
Typically, things happen from the top down. So it's basically leadership. The best employees started to leave because the leadership was not the best at the time. So much so that the person left, the main person in charge, of course. This was not a big financial institution, but it has many, I would say, branches. And once that happened, it brings even more insecurity to the employees because now the leaders that they did admire and look up to are leaving because of that leadership. So, and then right after that, the people who stayed resilient, trying to keep their job, trying not to be scared,
Mhm.
many of them were asked to go home because we could not work. We had to work in a skeleton crew when COVID came. So a lot just came to my lap. So I had perhaps at this point a team of maybe on average, because it changed, maybe on average of 8 people, and it went down to 2 people
What was
on
that like
average.
for a minute? Let's back up a minute because very seldom do we get to hear people talk about what actually transpired in institutions like banking during COVID because I was a trainer. So I mean, everything about me shut down. I wasn't going around people and to train them, but the banking industry still had to function because people still had to have access to their funding. So what were some of the stressful things that you had to deal with, and what were some of the things that you wasn't used to having to do because now you're in a state of emergency, and people, even though they may be paranoid about whether they're going to live or die from this illness, you also worry about what the fuck is going to happen to my money. Are you guys going to shut down? Am I going to lose my funding? So there was probably a lot of stuff on your plate. What is some of that stuff that was on your plate?
Yes, very, very scary. We did emergency loans. We could do that for a short period of time at this point. But the financial industry started to hurt a lot throughout that process. So we had to shut down some of our services and open others because of the state that we were in. We had to work more through the drive-through, for example, more people calling. So the wait time, so the quality of service also starts to pain, starts to hurt. And now people who are working in the office, if they do get COVID, they had to get a negative test to go back. So now if I had two employees, one of them got COVID, they're out for 3 to 4 weeks until they have a negative test. So the amount of stress is immeasurable. It's ginormous. So every time there was a need, I had to take care of that for all of these branches and all of these people who were clients from this financial institution. And some of the things that I took years to train my staff doing, most of them were not there and nobody else knew how to do it. So it wasn't easy. I oversaw basically account openings and loans, consumer loans. So it was heavy duty.
The people that wind up resigning or quitting, I'm pretty sure you had some type of bond with them. Did they ever reach out to you and was like, "Hey, you better kind of bail out now," and because it's COVID is taking over, leadership, like you said, doesn't know what the hell they're going to do. Nobody in this country pretty much had a game plan for such an event to have taken place. Were there moments that this became scary for you before you start getting piled up with all the other stuff?
Very scary. I had to learn quickly how to not be in control. I had to at home install cameras so I can watch my kids at the same time work. My kids calling, having to deal with being home and not having their parents there, calling me throughout the day with their little issues, their little problems, and I had to somehow, uh, cope and guide them through this in the middle of having people with emergency situations. So many people lost jobs, so many people needed help. It was in between the time before people started getting the incentive from the government, right? Once that started, that did help. And then we had a change in the interest rates. Everything started to change, and we had to adapt very quickly to all of that. But no, I did not have anybody advising me of that. I did not have anybody saying why, go do this or do that. I had to just go one day at a time. Before, I used to be a planner, a
Mhm.
perfectionist, a person who loves to do everything just so, and loves to take. I'm an achiever as well. At this point, I had to learn. It was a big learning curve for me. I had to learn just to deal with one day at a time with what came
How
and
difficult
not
was
have
that for you
control.
to do, though? How difficult was that for you to do? Because that's not part of your DNA. Let's get real.
No,
It's almost like
no.
descaling. You don't take a Ferrari and then all of a sudden you tone it down to a four-cylinder engine. So how difficult was that for you to go from there to just to that? And that had to be a mental block for you as well.
I did a couple of things. It was a combination of things, to tell you the truth. I would say number one, prayer. A
Okay.
lot of prayer, asking for a calm heart because you need to be calm. When things happen like this, you have to remain calm. Number two, I did go to my doctor, my primary doctor, and she did give me something for anxiety to help to tone that down. And that did help me. Um, Other than that, I just had to learn. I just had to force myself to learn. I knew that I could not stay that way. And I had to learn new skills, just new ways of seeing things and outside the box. And that's in an aspect, it's through that pain that
Mhm.
you have an opportunity of growth.
You come home. You mentioned taking care of children, and my hats off to you. These are not only your children, but children in which you adopted. So that's also says a lot for who you are as a female. Um, you take in and you adopt these children. You come home. What was that like? Because your husband's also a executive, and you're dealing with COVID, but share with me briefly that there was already strain, and there was unresolved things or things starting to surface in the household that you probably didn't know about, but when it surfaced, now you have to deal with that. How did all that transpire?
So, coming home, it was a moment that I had to be very efficient in a way because everybody needs and wants attention. Children, they absolutely need it. They crave it. So coming home is a moment where I had to think about dinner, right? Feeding my family, making healthy decisions, very important,
Mhm.
having that quality time with them, short quality time. At the same time, they need individual time. So I used to tell them, listen, if you would like to talk to me in private or, just tell mom and I'll make sure that I'll make time for you. Because it's harder for you to have privacy when you have a big family in a house.
Yeah.
Everybody sees everything happening. So it was that. It was also a lot of training. It's training them to do their chores, redo their chores, redo their chores. And so that it takes time and it was sometimes exhausting and stressful. And then because I came already home tired, that's where I feel like the energy and where I am today is so different than where I was then because I was being drained in every direction.
Where was where was your support cast? I mean, you still come home to your husband. I mean, what was his overall viewpoint? Because you had to come home and share the shit that you was dealing with at work, all this workload. And I mean, was he just not emotionally there with watching you do all these things?
He expressed many times that he would like me not to be working there, many times. He also expressed that he would rather me uh, either do my own thing, open my own business, and do what I would love to do. So I would just have and be more content and more happy. He could see the level of stress. Like in the morning, I'm already rushing, right, to make sure the kids are taken care of, the laundry's done, the meal is planned, and then running to get on time for work, dealing with staff calling in sick, and all that stuff at the same time. So it's very stressful. So he saw that and he did not like it. He did not like it. He did not want it. And at this point, I still did not know how I would change it. I did not know how that would come about. So it was in the middle of that it took many, many months for me to figure it out. And also, in a way, manifested where I am today, out of that pain. So he did give me some support, but he was also working a big job. He just got promoted in October of 22. He had now a lot of more responsibilities. His boss demanded much more of him. His income, of course, increased due to that. So many times he came home late, or he got home, he had to go to work. So that connection as a couple started to to strain a little bit. So I had to start learning how to find that power and empowerment inside of me. And it hurt because I felt like I needed more and I didn't get it, or I didn't have as much as I needed. So it was hurting, but I was seeking it and I was seeking it. So that was part of my journey.
So when eventually you guys decided that to split up or he left or whatever, but when he decided to leave and you're already going through the stuff that you're going through at work, did you already quit your job prior to him leaving?
And that's where the magic kind of happens, Andre, because I was already feeling that something was going to change soon. In December, I was already looking for training. I redid my resume. I changed the way I dressed. I already started all of this. It was like one thing at a time, but I can see the journey of transformation. So in February, just 2 months after some of the things that I was already feeling that were about to come, I was part of the new layoff. So I was laid off, and then a couple of weeks after that, my husband left me.
Did he even give you any indication that he was leaving?
Um, of course, not in those words, but in actions, the disconnect was already happening, like we were just talking progressively. And that he was there was some discontent there in the emotional side of the relationship. I think it was all just that part really that put us apart. And and so I kind of I was trying to, through my transformation and my healing that I came through, I was trying to give him space for his journey and his healing. But throughout of that, he discovered that that this is not anymore what he would like to continue doing. So um, that's when I came to another realization of uh, the power that I have from inside of me. And one thing I love to say, and I think I shared this with you before, is the power that you have inside of you, the power that breathes you,
Mhm.
is much greater than any circumstance, situation, or condition that you're in.
How
And
long
I
did
learned
it
that.
how long did it take you to really, let's get real. I mean, you still have children, and at the end of the
Mhm.
day, that's what it's about. How long how long did you have to get your mind right? Because he's no longer there. You're not working at the job. Income is not, I don't know if he was paying you money, but it's just assumed that there was no income because you don't have your job. How do what was the order of operation that you put in place to protect you, protect your children, and more importantly, to be able to move on with your life in what you might call a life that's going to allow you to evolve?
So it's something interesting to look back to right now, because while you're going through it, it's almost like it's surreal,
Mhm.
while you're going through all of that, when you're inside of it and you're emotionally involved. So you sometimes don't see everything as clear. But because I committed myself through the last 2 years of changing myself and not expecting changes from others, and respecting other people's journey, and respecting that this is my journey, and not being emotionally dependent on anybody, was groundbreaking for me. So self-knowledge and awareness was a big step, where I went from being hurt to understanding, um, from being offended to let them. I don't know if you heard this year. This is a big phrase this year. Let them, just let them.
Mm.
And respecting the decision, and understanding that you're sufficient. All of that helped me. And then on the practical side of the part of the money, let's talk about the money and the kids, right? Of
Mhm.
course. Making sure that my children are loved by both parents is fundamental. They have to feel that that's unbreakable, that's never going to change, that nothing will change that. And reassuring that through actions and words is crucial. The other part is having a spiritual experience with my children. That's always been part of our family life as well. So continuing that so they can feel that unbreakable relationship that they have with their creator, or spiritual. Um, Also the support of friends that have been our friends for a long time, who are very respectful, not intrusive, but are there. So they're giving that friendship and that support and that love, right? Either by calling, taking my kids out, being available to talk to, being private about it. All of that respect and that love and care that is regular, we made sure that it's happening so they can feel that. As part of the finances, we did go through a cut, of course, because I went from receiving this every 2 weeks to not receiving, right? So that did change. Although he um, grew, like I said, in 2022. He expanded. He's in a high level executive position right now, so he's doing very well in his career. So he's able to support the family and take care of the kids. However, we did have to reevaluate our spending habits
Right.
because we were more in a comfortable situation, right? So now, okay, we're not receiving this. We need to be responsible here. So let's cut down here and here and here. So we have had continual conversation about finances, and doing that in a respectful way, reasonable way, has been very important. And we've maintained that. And that's very good. And it's good for the kids too, because it's a learning opportunity for them to see, sometimes in life these things happen. And there are moments that you might have abundance financially, and others that it's going to be cut lower. But this is a moment that we're passing through, and we're going to do this together, and this is how we're going to do it. And they've been learning how to budget. They've been learning how to be more creative, being helpful. So it's been a very good learning opportunity as well.
When you went into the transformation of a new you, a new journey, we always realize that we we have inner strengths that we didn't really know that we have. What were the inner strengths that you realized that you had, and then what were the ones that you realized that was handicapping you?
I love that question. I don't think anybody has asked me that question before, so thank you. Um, I think that number one is understanding my anxiety, something that I did not realize, but I had it with me all my life.
Mhm.
And understanding how that operates, and learning about who I am, how I am, and going deep within through the whole training that I did with my coaches, helped me get in tune with my humanity, who Jessica really is inside. Not my title, not what I achieved, but who I really am inside. And understanding that, and my spirituality and my connection with the universe, has been key, because now I don't consider myself an anxious person anymore.
Mm,
I I don't um thrive or care about negative things around me anymore.
mm.
I don't, I'm going to give you a quick example. I used to love watching these serial killers and these crime shows.
Okay,
Love it.
you're
I was
scaring me now.
fascinated. I, I love watching them. I thought they were like, this is
Yeah,
crazy. How can it be? I don't watch those things anymore.
right.
I everything that's negative is like, I don't need this. Why am I, feeding myself with that? So I learned how I operate. What do I want to help me? Is this serving me? So once you start switching the process, your paradigms, your process, and your habits, all of that is pivotal for you to start switching and growing and expanding yourself. All of that was pivotal. So anxiety is gone. The sense and need of control, I don't have that either anymore. I don't let anybody control me anymore either. I used to. I don't let that anymore. So many of the things have changed about me, and that are so freeing.
You know, when we went through this COVID era, I know people hate hearing this, but let's get real. A lot of people self-worth and self-identification was put in check. And what I mean by that is a lot of people were identified themselves by their job titles. When you had to be forced into an isolated situation, a lot of your true self had to be exposed. And what I mean by your true self is you now had to spend time with your family all day. You now had to spend time with your significant other all day. So now you really get to see everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think out of all that, I think people began to understand that I'm more than just a CEO. Some people still attach themselves to that. With that being said, How difficult was it for you to remove yourself from the title, from the madness, from the control to being who you are? Because a lot of people was like, hey, that's security. Hey, you went to school for that. Hey, you're walking away from 50 figures, but you're like, fuck it. I found something a little bit better. I found myself through this journey. I'm not going to allow control. I'm not going to allow this. How difficult was that for you? Because people who don't see the transformation that you're going through re, will always result back to what I call the comfort reality of their life, of the life.
Yes. Oh yeah, and I remember I was proud to say that I was a director of a financial institution, that I grew to that position from manager to director, and that was my last position there. I was very proud of it. That is the little crown or the little plaque that I carried with me everywhere I went, because it took me years also to conquer that. So I totally get that. And I think that we're also in a society that values that. People go and talk about titles and everything that they've earned and everything that, it's all about that. It's like a tag, right? Of a piece of clothing that you have to show where you got and who you are. But that is it's it's almost like the covering of a cake, but it's not the whole cake. The whole cake is you. You need to find you as a human being, as a spiritual being, as a creature, as a whole person, a whole soul. And for that, you require to dive in within yourself and not just what you are boxed in to see and believe based on what society teaches you or how you were brought up. There's so much more to that. So for me to change that, I had to be willing. You
Mm.
have to be willing and have an open heart and a desire for more. Because if you just stay in your comfortable or your comfort zone, there's no change there. And if there's no change, you're making a choice to stay there. And many times that can be mediocre. We have so much potential as human beings, and you not wanting to unlock that, it is just it's in a way it's sad because you have so much, so many gifts that most people just go about lives with things that are just coming at them, and they think that that's what it is. And no, there's just so much more to that. And it's a shame just to have that wasted that way. So I think the first ingredient is willingness. And once I became willing to that, I started opening the doors. The doors just started opening to me, and the universe starts speaking to you, and things start happening.
Let me go deeper. Let me go down a rabbit hole. Check this out. Let me go down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
What are you looking for in this journey? What are you looking for?
That's a good question. Well, um,
The only reason why I
I
say that
have my,
because you haven't mentioned money, and a lot of people always assume,
mm,
and this is some tripped out shit. I'm gonna just call it like it is. A lot of people, when you go on these awakening journeys, woke journeys, it's always somebody who doesn't see the picture, always think that oh, they're doing it for money. So the question is, what are you doing this for?
um, I think money is just a natural consequence. And it's been coming naturally. But the main focus in my life is to be truly happy with myself
Hmm.
and therefore be able to serve others. By myself being whole, the whole being that I can be, that I was created to be, that
Yeah.
I know my purpose, I will be able to serve others. And I believe in the first and the second commandment, the biggest ones that people who do believe, in the scriptures. But for you to be able to love yourself, you have to have a spiritual connection. First commandment. Second commandment is to love your neighbor, you need to love yourself.
Did you love yourself?
So that's I do now.
Oh, did you love yourself?
You're talking about when I was going through the transformation?
prior to
I
the?
wasn't.
What
Mm-mm.
are some examples of why you didn't love yourself? Now that you know what you need to do, give me some
Yeah.
examples so the viewers can understand why you didn't love yourself. Put the viewers in your shoes as to why you didn't love yourself.
There are many reasons. I'm going to mention a few of them. I was number one, scared of change. I did not believe in myself as much as I do believe in myself now.
Mhm.
I had drive, but I still stayed in that job for years and years, not being fully content, being discontent, because I did not have the courage and the belief in myself that I was capable of much more than that.
How
Yes,
much is that is fear? How much is that is fear to you? How much of it is fear?
it is fear of the unknown. It is fear. Absolutely. And especially as a perfectionist, a person who likes to have control over things, I thought I had to have all my ducks in a row to get into something else. I don't believe that today anymore.
You mentioned now you love yourself and you're now coaching individuals. And we talked about this. That word has, it's like going to uh, Baskin Robbins and popcorn world with 336 flavors. Everybody's a coach. And we talked about this. But your coaching journey is a little bit different. You've studied up under some of the one of the leading institutions for really mentoring coaches. But you mentioned your philosophy on coaching. Tell me a little bit about that. I thought it was very good on how you did the illustration with the mountain. Tell the viewers a little bit about how you view coaching.
Absolutely. So coaching is actually a more modern word. If you think about therapy or psychology, they come much before that. So they have more of a track record or more history behind it. So people kind of have more of a reliance on that. But coaching is different than any of those at the same time. When you go to a therapist or a psychologist, you're normally having to deal with things from the past to help you to deal with your present. So you dig into your past a lot, or how you see things or what you went through. A coach has a different approach. It's a basically you can't just say that you're a coach because you had experience. For example, I am a mother of four children, and I have a lot of experience with children, but that in itself is not enough for me to say that I'm ready to coach parents.
Right.
So life experience is huge, but it's not enough. You need more than that. You need specialization. You need information from people who are able to be your mentors, who are able to be your professors and your teachers that come with evidence and scientifically proven methodology. So you are actually now being able to do things in a proven and effective way. And therefore, the reason why I decided to choose, of course, where I got my certifications is because of the proven record of decades of transformation, of transforming people, and all of the scientific evidence behind it, and their methodology of how it's been implemented and refined throughout the years. So, as a coach, I have a specific program to go through depending on what the individual or the group would like to achieve. And who is ready and with an open heart, ready for transformation. So it is something very specific. It's not just a conversation, it is something very specific, and there are steps to be taken, if
When
that makes any sense.
Yeah, when you're and thanks for sharing that. I hope the viewers understood that, but if they didn't, I'm at the end of the show, she'll provide her information on how to give more in depth and more clarity for those that didn't understand that. But you go around and you publicly speak on the transformation. What are some of the things that you're witnessing when you're out speaking with people that people are having a hard time dealing with? One thing that I like that you said, and I'm a firm believer that people are literally afraid to invest in themselves. I don't understand it. Maybe because I'm not a coach to that aspect, but to me, before I go invest in anything, I'm going to invest in me. If I don't believe in myself, then I got a problem. But you go out and you do tours and you speak on coaching and you speak on empowerment with people. What are some of the things that you are hearing from people? And what's three of the biggest obstacles that you hear when you're um, working with people?
Um, the biggest is how. How am I going to invest in myself if I don't have that much money? How am I going to get that car? How am I going to get that job? It's always the how. People get stuck in the how, and they forget that you need to know where you are today clearly. Many people don't know. They're stuck, they're blindsided, they're distracted, they're procrastinating. And then where they want to go clearly. Because once you know and you're emotionally connected to that, that's when you start to create a spiral of connection with the vibration, with the universe, and the how just happens. It starts happening. It starts appearing. It starts coming. It starts opening. So you got to stop thinking about the how.
You can repeat all that shit again. So out of all of those things on the how, I think I run into more when I'm talking to people and listening to their stories or wanting to evolve. I probably would register more of a procrastination on people more than the other things. Why do you think that is?
Um, I think procrastination happens for many different reasons. Um, it could be something mental too. For instance, I deal sometimes with ADHD, so I have a little bit of experience with that, not with myself, with my kids. So I know that that sometimes can be a tendency. Um, and we have a huge desire for immediate satisfaction.
Right.
So when something is prolonged, it's very easy to push it aside or to give up. And that's where, as a coach, I am trained and I know how to ignite the fire of that desire in you to help you actually move forward towards it and avoid the procrastination. Because the procrastination is an obstacle, it's excuses, it's the whys. Is I don't have that satisfaction right now, so let me just go eat that pizza instead, or whatever you feel like doing to have that satisfaction right now. And then you end up pushing and pushing perhaps your dream aside because it requires work. It requires you to be invested. It requires you to want it so bad that you are ready to start making the changes.
You mentioned the a bigger handicap with this, and I see this all the time. Money.
Mhm.
I can see people will make a way to get their nails done, their hair
Exactly.
done, to buy that particular item over here, to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. The list goes on. But there's always the second main reason. Why is that? Because I don't know how you can retrain somebody to, if you can go do this, then you should put that money in yourself. Does this also have to do with instant gratification at the moment that the mind is saying, okay, I might put this money into myself, but how long is it going to take me to get it back? What's your take on that?
These for me are clearly paradigms and also standard common thinking
Hmm.
that we are surrounded by. In order for you to come out of that, you need to go into brave thinking. You need to be courageous. You need to be open, be willing to open your mind. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me. When
Yeah.
I invested in my certifications, okay, I got three certifications, no, four actually. As soon as I was laid off, I invested all of that money into that when I was laid off. Why? Because I wanted it so bad. I wanted it so bad. And guess what? It happened. The money came. I'm going to tell you, this is amazing. I have properties in Brazil. They were stuck under processes. It's crazy the law over there and how things are just were a mess. It took decades for us to be able to resolve that.
Mm.
And it was the time that I decided to invest in myself. We were able to sell those properties and the money came.
Wow. Manifesting
Mhm.
for real.
There and then for real. And
Wow.
I can tell you many stories. One of the biggest famous people, and I can't remember his name right now, he is a mountain climber. The same thing happened. He was invited by another group of men. This was back in the 70s or 60s, to try to go up the mountain, which is the most famous one, Everest.
Mm.
And they wanted to go up to the peak. And no human have ever climbed it before. So they said, we need to go in a group of professional, experienced men to do this together. So he invited this particular one. He says, you have to come with us. He said, how much is it going to be? And they said, well, it's going to be this much because we have to invest in this. We have to put our own money. He says, well, I can't go. I'm sorry. I don't have the money. So the group left of men went. They climbed a little bit, but they did not achieve the peak. 2 years later, they recuperated, got the money again. They invited this climber again. Hey, we're going to try again. Want to come with us? And he said, how much is it going to be? They said, well, it's going to be this and this. We have to buy the supplies. We have to have, they says, I don't have that kind of money. I can't go. So guess what? The group again went by themselves and started the climbing. And they went a little further than what they did or went 2 years before, but they still did not reach the peak. So they came back, waited a couple of years, and this time they said, you have to come. There's just like no way. You have to come this time. And then he decided to shift his mind. He said, how much, what is the deposit? What is the minimum that I need to go? Like not the whole amount, just a little bit, just so I can, start envisioning. He started to believe that he would actually do this. By him opening that mindset, he just gave a little bit of the money so they could start getting the supplies together. And by the time that they actually went to climb, they not only he had access to the money, they reached the peak and he became the most famous climber of all times because he was the first one. Everything happened, everything was aligned because he opened his mind to the possibility that he
Mm.
could afford that because that's how much he wanted it. And that's the thing. We are so conditioned to everything that we can touch. What is the paycheck that's coming in the bank right now? What is it that I can afford? What is it that it's everything is attached and it's not. There's so much more in the universe happening. And this is another episode that we we can do about and you just have to be open to transformation because once you're open to that, there is a whole universe of possibilities.
Let me ask you another question before we wrap up. And thank you so much for taking time to come on and be so transparent in storing your journey. I love it. Um, what is easier to work with? You're a coach, and I have my theories on this too. Is it easier to work with I know you can do both, but I'm just asking which is the easiest and why. Is it easier to work with a open mindset individual or a set mindset? Somebody, a critical thinker and a non-critical thinker, which is better for you? Because both of them can be transformed. I know one would be easier, but because you're a coach, what's your take on that?
Well, I think that the person who is a critical thinker, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to question. Um, um, you do a lot of that in your episodes and shows, so that's how we dig in deeper. That's how we find out things is for you to be kind of critical and ask questions. On the other hand, a person maybe who's open-minded might just accept without being profound into it. So that's the one side to it. And the flip side to it is maybe the person can become more resistant to transformation because they might be a little more skeptical, and the other one is more open and not so held back. So I think there's positives and negatives on both. But for me, it doesn't matter. Anybody who wants to improve the life, wants to create a life that they love, that's all they need to get started.
How has your
That
life
desire, burning desire.
how has your life really changed now that you look back on all that you went through? And if you had to look back and tell yourself something different, what would you tell yourself?
If I went back, I would probably tell myself to do this sooner. Andre, I lost 70 pounds in the last couple of years. I
Congratulations.
went back to, I've been, yes, thank you. I've been back to working out. I'm fit. I'm stronger. All the health problems that I had are gone.
Wow.
I am happy. I am grateful every day. I wake up every day excited for my day.
Some people would
I
say
love it.
that's how long did all this take? Let's just get real. And I think you mentioned something where you said we as humans, and I get it. We want gratification right now. We don't want to hear philosophies and let me put it like this, unproven philosophy, but I'm a firm believer the proof is in the pudding. She's right here. The proof is in the pudding. I'm right here. So I know what she's talking about. But the question in general, I need you to answer that.
So let me make sure I understand. You wanting to know the time that it took me
Yeah.
or what it took of me. Okay. So it took me about 2 years.
Okay. So it wasn't an overnight sensation.
No,
Okay.
no. But the overnight sensation that I can tell you I did have
Go ahead.
is is a discontent, a lot of discontent. And that discontent was the catapult.
Give me an example. Give the viewers an example of discontent. Take them down that moment.
I was not, um, I felt boxed in working at corporate. My creativity, my, my knowledge, my, everything that I have to give was in a box, shortened. I could only use part of it. So it's almost like imprisoning me as a human being. I I had a desire of expansion, of becoming more. Like I had to rip up the old skin and just become new again and become me. I have so much more to give, and I felt like I was being held back. The other thing is, I did not like the way I was feeling in my body, and my body was just manifesting what I was feeling and thinking because it's all connected. So that brought discontent with my body, right? So I had pain. I did not like how I looked, how I felt. So something had to change. And I knew that. I said, I can't stay this way. This is not me. This is not how I want to be. And the third is the amount of anxiety that I had that just overflowed into my family life or into my decisions. I I wasn't as happy as I could be. I knew that. I was grateful for many things, but I was far from where I envisioned myself and how I should be as a human being with being content and grateful and being able to not to always be anxious, worried, rushing, like and in that mode every day. That had to change.
Now there were moments that you probably, because you're human, there was probably moments that you wanted to quit, but at the end of the day, what really kept you moving?
What kept me moving through this?
Yeah.
Um, um, I can say my creator, he gave me a lot of strength. to get through it as I was going through the transformation, through all that pain, that growing pain. That was number one. Number two is having the right set of support. So, us as humans, we need the right support system. We need the people who are cheering for you, who believe in you, who want the best for you. None of the negativity that I don't want to even talk about it. It's just people who are right, who have the vision, who are forward people, who are big thinkers, who are creators, visionaries. Those are the type of people that you need to be around. Very important.
You need to say that again too. We're getting deep today, very deep. What before we wrap up, what should the viewers, what do you want the viewers to get out of your show? What do you want them to get out of this? Because I resonate with everything that you're saying. And I'm pretty sure there's a few that's also, but the end game is what do you want them to get out of your show? What's the message should they get?
Number one is to listen to your discontent, to be open minded, and to allow yourself um, to become larger, to become bigger, to connect with who you are and who you want to be. Um, Once you have those basic ingredients, you will find the right support system, the right mentors and coaches that will walk with you and show you the shortest way to get to what you truly desire and love in your life.
How can the viewers reach out to you and know more about the transformation, coaching, and empowering themselves to get to the level that you are?
I would love that. I love to serve people, Andre. So to reach out to me, I am on Instagram. It's Jessica J. Skinner. And I'm on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So they can reach out to me there. And then, of course, I have all my contacts and my links through the social media. So if you can come and follow me, I have always everyday nuggets to share with my followers, and I hope to see you all there.
Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time to share such a beautiful story. Make sure the viewers, that you click in and you ask their questions. You can't grow, you can't develop your mind, your spirit, your emotional connections unless you reach out and ask questions because we don't have the answers to everything, but at least we provide resources here for you to do that. Contact Jessica, elevate your mind. If you feel like you're boxed in a situation and you don't know how to get out, this is the resource. Pick up the phone, hit her up on that text message. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.